Okay, so first of all, this is not your imagination. I did swap the videos versus what I was planning to do. I was going to lead up to this and do my honorable mentions first, but we're just cutting straight to the chase because I want to. The unexpected thing that's happened throughout this year for me is my villain arc. Like, I just started this very perceptible, and honestly, I'm really enjoying it, the super cozy villain arc. And for that reason, it feels a little bit strange for me to just sit here and gush about products. And so I will say, even though the list is going to look long, this list is actually relatively small, proportionate to the rest of the stuff that I reviewed this year. If there are things that you loved or bought this year by my recommendation that are not on this list, I definitely want to hear about that and hear about what you thought about those products, like in the comments, and maybe my thoughts have changed and we can, you know, talk about that. But also Friday is going to be my honorable mentions video, so it might appear there as well. Only so many can make the cut, and I tried to be relatively savage. So let's go ahead and jump into the video that always feels weird to actually make because so much leads up to it. Best of the best of the year of 2022. All right, so starting with complexion, we're gonna start with skin prep, and this, I mean, none of this will come as any surprise. I'm just gonna say that so that I stop saying it. This is the Kosas Plump and Juicy Vegan Collagen Spray-On Serum. I love this so much. It comes in glass. Oh, we love that. But, you know, I don't think this is a particularly like makeup wear time elongating product. It is very much a skincare product for skin prep purposes. I wouldn't like try and apply your makeup on top of this while it's still wet or try and like set your makeup with it, but it is a lovely serum for skin prep that came out this year. I think it works beautifully for that, especially for people like me with dry skin who are working usually against makeup kind of wanting to dry up on the day. By the end of the day, your skin has soaked up so much of the moisture in the makeup that it just needs that extra boost to start off with, and this gives me a head start. I like that. Okay, complexion. We're just really like cutting to the chase, having dessert first here, because complexion is like the thing I get the most excited about, especially when I find a really great one. And if you watched my fails of the year video, you know it's also one of the things that I get like the most incensed about when it's disappointing. But it also happens to be the most specific product type for people's skin types, obviously, because it's like the thing that you wear on the largest portion of your face in most cases. And so this is so conditional to my particular wants and needs, being I want to look like kind of dewy and effortless, and also I want it to make my skin not look older. I don't mind aging, but I also don't want to put makeup on and have it make me look older. So if I am properly hydrated, I don't want my makeup to steal that from me. And not everyone is like that. Some people have different needs. Some people have different wants. Mine are, I have dry skin and I want it to not look like I have dry skin. Starting with the least coverage, my goodness, I had a deep obsession with this year. This is the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer Light Revealer Natural Skin Illuminator. I'm not cutting. I have it in OW1 Pearl. It's a little light, but it doesn't really matter because this is so low coverage. What's so awesome about this is that, yes, it's low coverage, but for those of you who just, the word blur is catnip for you, it blurs like crazy. It's amazing. It has this awesome light refracting kind of texture to it that is not shimmery, and it's also not dewy. It's just sort of light obscuring in a really cool way. So, you know, the Make foundation, the Make Beauty foundation, did not make the cut for this video. I'll go ahead and spoil it. And that is because it was pretty much the only product that I tried from them that is imperfect. And I really use y'all's comments to like weigh into that kind of decision making as well, because it had visible glitter in it. I'm being tickled by my bracelet. But this, for all the fears of it saying that it is a light revealer natural skin illuminator, it illuminates your natural skin in that it reveals it, but I do not think that it is an illuminator. It is not like a liquid highlighter or something. It is very much a beautiful skin tint. And the reason that I tried this initially was because I am sensitive to octinoxate, which is a chemical sunscreen ingredient that is in pretty much every SPF-based tinted moisturizer from Laura Mercier and lots of other brands up until recently. But because of like the laws in Hawaii pertaining to the coral reefs and things like that, it's being taken out of products. So thank goodness, because it breaks my skin out. So this is just avobenzone, homosalate, octisalate, and octocrylene. And so that's why I tried it, and I'm so glad that I did, because it's so good. Bought this one with my own money. The Kosas was gifted. This was also gifted, and such an instant love affair, such an instant love affair. And I think that, you know, as I'm listening to other creators talk about their favorite, their less favorite products throughout the year, a lot of people didn't like this if they didn't want dewy looking skin. Okay, valid. And then there are other people who just didn't like vibe with it. Like, it didn't become a very memorable product for them, and there are tons of reasons why that might happen. And that's why these things kind of are like, you know, they can be a little bit savage, because it's like, okay, that didn't live in my mind palace, and that's not anybody's fault. But it's also, you know, not taking into account just the performance of the formula. It might just be that, like, the product itself, its entire holistic existence didn't resonate with someone. This happened to holistically resonate with me and perform beautifully. I really like the price on it too. So this is the Rare Beauty Positive Light Tinted Moisturizer, Broad Spectrum SPF 20 Sunscreen. They happen to also, this is a luck thing, they happen to also send me the perfect shade, which is 14W. So this is a medium coverage skin tinted moisturizer that has both chemical and physical sunscreen in it, which didn't bug me one way or the other. And it has the most beautiful finish on it without being wet or tacky. It has a really beautiful, smoothed, slightly, I call it like a glycerin finish, because it's almost like it's self-smoothing, self-leveling. It's a type of medium that you like mix with paint. in the regular, like, you know, art supply universe, you use a self-leveling medium that's like, okay, I want to make a surface flat, you pour it on top and it levels itself. That's what I used to use for, like, you know, screen printing on top of paintings and things like that. Boy, do I digress, but that's what this kind of does. And it reminds me of my original landmark love of my life skin tint from the drugstore, which is the L'Oreal True Match Lumi foundation, that also, I hope they take the octinoxate out of it, because we will be reunited and it will feel so good. But that finish just lives in my mind as this landmark of like what a skin tinted moisturizer is supposed to do. It's supposed to be glowy without being like dewy and wet looking. So it's lovely, lovely, lovely for dry skin, especially if you like that kind of finish. And, you know, if you're new to my channel, there aren't gonna be any drugstore products in here. Like, this is affordable to me, and I'm not saying I'm rich, I'm just saying, like, in the world of what appeals to me from a holistic standpoint, packaging, performance, what have you, like, this is typically what appeals to me. So yeah, this is a relatively affordable product, and we're gonna get into several that aren't affordable, and I will say, like, this performs incredibly well as something that could easily be 2 or 3 times the price. Here's one that I actually heard worked okay for people with combo skin as well, and I just adored this for most of the year. So this is the Chanel, this is the new one that came out when they re-emerged at Ulta. I say re-emerged because Chanel was like at one of my local Ultas for a while. They had a Chanel counter, but it wasn't online. It was almost like a, you know, a test. And apparently they passed the test, because now Chanel is at like other Ultas and they're online, and they did their own line, which is the #1 Day Chanel, which is certainly not less expensive. Nope. Just exclusive to Ulta. So this is the #1 Day Chanel Fond de Teint Red Camellia Revitalizing Foundation, and I got this in the shade B10, which is an excellent match for me, oddly, because another Chanel foundation I got in 10, thinking it would be 10 beige B10, and it's too light. Either way, this is so nice. But again, it kind of meets the same criteria for me of being hydrating across the day, and it has a slightly different finish. I would say that it is more of a natural finish, but it's still like smooth and glycerin-y and dewy. It just might be a little bit kind of like more committed, a little bit more grip to it, and a little bit maybe more buildable. More of a foundation than a tinted moisturizer, absolutely. And it does have the scent I like the scent. It smells like magic sizing that my mom used to like iron shirts with, but that's just a personal thing. Again, so comes in glass. This is $70. Absolutely wackadoodle on the pricing, but it's so nice. It's so nice. Like if you own one foundation and all of those things are the things that appeal to you, you know, all of those qualities, you know, I highly recommend it. It's so utterly beautiful, and I feel utterly beautiful when I wear it, and I think that that's a lot of the point of wearing makeup. Beautiful is different than pretty. I like feeling beautiful. Oh, let's get her out of the way because it's the only thing that I have been using since I bought it. I you know what people always say, the creators always say, I can't put this down, I can't put this down. Even I say that. I'm like, oh, my top shelf, all the beauty I can't put down. When I say I can't put something down, it means like I have beauty storage over here, and like there's no point in me putting it back because I'm just gonna go have to dig it back out again. And that is, I don't think, it's not new. It just kind of got like re-released, I think, with more shades. And so that's why it was on Trend Mood, but it was the first time I had ever like seen it and been in the market for more Chanel complexion product, because they have so far, you know, impressed me with a lot of their complexion products. And this is the Sublimage Le Teint. And this is also, like I said, in the shade 10 Beige, and it is too light for me. I'll show y'all what I've been mixing it with. But pretty much anything that has like a, you know, a tan kind of color to it, I can use to mix with it. It's fine. It's never been like finicky. But y'all, this is just, okay, so I did not end up finishing the Chantecaille Future Skin Gel, which was like one of my goals of this year. I mean, it's a loose goal. Aries never really hold themselves to a lot of goals. We're like, I wrote it down somewhere. This is, this is so ridiculous to say, but it's like an elevated version of the Chantecaille Future Skin. Which is so funny because that stuff is like 80 something dollars, I think. I think they bumped the price up. It was like $80. I think it's like $82 or $84 now. And this is $135. I would say I don't want to talk about it, but I do. I do want to talk about it because it's that good. Okay, and I've gotten comments from people being like, I would really appreciate it if you would encourage a little more solvency. And I'm like, it's a big internet, babe. Okay. And for me, this is worth every penny because I use it every single day and I feel like an absolute goddess when I use it. And that, to me, is the reason that I buy and use makeup. Especially the reason that I review makeup is to find something that is truly that good. Even if I have a breakout, even if I have picked, even if my skin is mad, man, my skin absolutely loves this. I'm wearing it right now and it always looks divine. And what I also like about it is you can wear it at any coverage level. You can just kind of like bibbidi bop that on with a brush and, you know, go through it at a snail's pace. It also builds super, super beautifully. And it has the same feeling on the skin when you apply it with a brush that the Chantecaille Future Skin does, where it's almost kind of cooling. It has this amazing like drink of water feeling to it when you put it on, not like a tingle or something. There's no like technology doing it. It's just the nature of the formula itself just feels fantastic while it's going on. And like, I used to think of my complexion as part of my routine that I just kind of wanted to get through. And now it's like something I really enjoy because I'm like, look, it just keeps getting better, you know? So yeah. I mean, I will say that I wish I had gotten a better shade in it because I feel like sometimes I mismix. I get it too dark or something, but you know, that's neither here nor there because hopefully you would get the right shade. And if you are complected like me, you know, like exactly like me, like we're skin twins, then B10 is probably gonna be a little bit light, but it was a perfect shade for the concealer. So let's talk about the concealer. This is a more recent purchase because it was out of stock for so long, and I have a lovely, lovely viewer that like keeps her eye out and like sends me a DM when things come back into stock. I really like it. Y'all are awesome, okay? Like the things you tag me in, the things you make me aware of, it's always so awesome. So I did. I paid, these are not the same price. They're the same level of expensiveness. This is $135. This is like $95. Wild, wild. And I'm not gonna say that I absolutely think that you need this because truth be told, like you can build this to the point that it kind of behaves like a concealer anyway. But what's cool about this one is it doesn't have any silicones in it. I don't even know how. or why? Because this has lots of silicones in it. It doesn't behave necessarily like, it doesn't behave dimethicone, like it doesn't have that funky like microsphere kind of texture to it. It's extraordinarily smooth, the same way that the Future Skin Gel is. It does have a little more coverage than the Future Skin Gel, but this is somehow the same, but has no silicones in it, and they agree with each other beautifully. It still behaves like a drink of water. And what's cool about this is I can wear it by itself. Like I can just put like a, you know, sunscreen on or whatever, and use this on a brush and it'll blend right into my skin and it behaves like skincare. I kind of wonder sometimes, especially at the rate that we go through things, if we're taking into account the fact that like a product that is wildly expensive like this is actually kind of knocking out several items in your routine that would probably have expired before you made it through them anyway. I mean, especially if you have a larger stash kind of thing, because this feels like skin prep, foundation, and like setting mist all in one. You know, it just has this like skincare vibe to it that like every day that I wear this, it feels like I am also wearing a really luxurious serum. And when I wash it off, my skin says thank you, you know? So to me, it's like even more worth it. It does have the scent. Does the concealer have the scent? The concealer does not have a scent. So this is actually kind of like a, I don't know, if you don't like silicones and you don't like a fragrance, oddly, this is going to be like a very accommodating formula. It's almost like accidentally clean, you know, whatever that means. All that to say, these are my foundation of the year. I usually like lead up to that with a little bit more suspense, but like, it's fairly obvious. I truly think that these are worth every penny, and they're my foundation of the year. Dun da da dun, fanfare. The other concealer that I tried this year that you'll be refreshed on the pricing here, that I absolutely adored to the point that like, look at it, it really looks like how my makeup used to look when I was just a regular makeup user, because it just got tossed around so much in like one bag that it rubbed all the packaging off and stuff. This is the Item Beauty Air Hug Concealer. I have the shade 110. Oh, by the way, yeah, I bought the Chanel and I bought this also. It behaves like a much more expensive product. This is, you know, Item Beauty is by, oh no, I don't remember her name. TikToker girl. She said in old. It's ultra creamy. Very high coverage from my standards. It's pretty high coverage on like, you know, the actual universal scale of coverage probably. And the color, this is so personal, but all of this is, 110 was like the most kick-ass match for my skin. Like just honestly like broke through to me that what I was really liking was a complexion match for my concealer and not that like really bright under eye. But there was just something about this like very neutral beige. I mean, if I'm being totally honest, it behaves exactly like the Creamy Shape Tape, but it's $18. Okay, face powders. I had 3 that I really liked this year. This one didn't get really that much play for me because it was just eclipsed by other things in terms of just newness, but I do want to point out how good this is, especially if you do like a pink brightening powder. That's not everybody's thing, but I like it. So this is the Rare Beauty powder. I think this is $22 and you get so stinking much product, and it comes in a bunch of shades and it's just really nice. It's just a great powder. It has like the right amount of coverage, the right amount of blend and blur, the right amount of mattification for me. I just feel like Selena Gomez is just continually dialing in her game and solidifying her place as someone who is a very strong and intuitive voice in what millennials want in makeup, especially as we're getting a little older. It's like, yeah, we want things that perform in this way that like does a whole, you know, Swiss Army knife's worth of things. We want things that have this beautiful hybrid texture to them. We want that level of control, but we also want to look, you know, a little bit effortless or a little bit dewy, or like have differences in textures and have that control. Like I really feel like she might have started out with some fits and starts, but she's got the right team around her, the right intuition, and especially the color game. Her color game is great. I think that she's making intuitive, useful, good looking makeup, you know? So yeah, I think that this powder is a home run, and I like her price point. And that was all the Rare Beauty stuff was gifted to me. I got on their PR list like late last year, I wanna say. This I did buy. This is the Haus Labs Bio Blurring Loose Setting Powder. Haus Labs. I will say, for all of my misgivings on this, that, or the other in her line, because I've tried a lot of things, she does not back down from a challenge. She is not trying to make forgettable products, okay? And the products that she does make, it's kind of like Danessa Myricks, and that's high praise coming from me, okay? It's like, when you challenge the status quo with a formula, it's probably going to be polarizing. And that means that there are going to be people who absolutely love it or absolutely hate it. That's what polarizing means. But that doesn't mean that people are going to be like super tepid on it, which is great. You know what I mean? Like, if I were out there making makeup, I would want someone to have strong feelings about it, one way or the other. Not like, you know, and that doesn't mean that it has to be bright, and it has to be, you know, super textured, and it has to be avant-garde and weird, because Haus Labs, when it was released through Amazon, was kind of weird for weird's sake, and it never appealed to me. And I feel like there's just been like a lighter, more mature touch from Miss Stephanie applied to the entire range, and also probably a little bit more experience under her belt. All that to say, I feel like some of them are absolutely ingenious, and this powder is greater than the sum of its parts. This is angel skin powder, you know, and it comes in a bunch of shades. I love that she put out such huge shade ranges and everything. And for those of you who do detest a pink under eye brightening powder, this is not pink. This is just a really pleasant beige that isn't dark. I'm wearing it right now. The Say Beauty one that they say is translucent is like too dark on me, and this looks kind of beige. It might, you know what I mean? It might be too beige for someone like Hannah. It might be, I'm not sure. I can only speak for myself, but in a world where things like this tend to go yellow on me, this is actually an incredibly, in fact, it's kind of light on me. It's like a brightening kind of powder, and that's what I use it for, is to give my skin this like better than reality kind of finish, and also just this lovely brightening without depositing shimmer or like very detectable like white pigment or something like that. Like, it just kind of reflects the light differently, and it does do a little bit of mattification, but not, as you can see, not too much. So that's my kind of powder. And finally, and I will say, maybe this is the appropriate time to say, there have been 3 brands for me this year that have just emerged as like winners of like the brands that I've tried for the first time this year, 2022. One of them is Make. I just think that they are doing it, okay? They make me go, why would I ever want to start my own makeup line when they're doing it so well? Like, I just get excited for, like, they're taking something like Glossier that are trying to be like different, but kind of end up jumping the shark eventually because they're sort of different for different sake, and then combining it with something as timeless and as like commoditized as Westman Atelier. And making it like, hey, we recognize that millennials are getting to a place in their lives where they do appreciate like a luxury item with a luxury price point, a luxury vibe. And while their makeup is not inexpensive, their skincare is relatively affordable. I am absolutely addicted multiple times a day. I'm applying it. I love it so much. That reverse emulsion, oh my God. And it's $36. It's amazing. They better never stop making it because I'm going to buy it in bulk. It's awesome. All that to say, their powders are mind-blowing, okay? Their powders do something that I cannot explain. It's some kind of alchemy on the skin. They call it skin mimetic. This is called this is just called the diffusion set, but they have the bronzer that they came out with was like the skin mimetic, like ultra suede or whatever. And they all look like they're going to be extreme and pigmented, and then they get on the skin and they just look fantastic. They're subtle, they're gorgeous, they blend, they don't over mattify, they never stamp, they don't hard pan, and the whole experience, it's just a very like complete feeling that you get from it. I've talked about it before, but I really like the way that they did the packaging. They said, oh, okay, well, you know, we want it to be luxurious, but we also want it to look kind of artsy. And I love they did kind of a faux pas of like mixing silver and gold. And it just says, hey, you know, We're gonna do things a little bit differently, but we're not gonna be like crazy wild in your face about it. All their packaging has just really like drawn my eye in that sense. And even if I don't mention every single thing by Make Beauty that I have tried this year, I do wanna say that like their brand has gotten me the most excited in 2022 about like brands to watch. If I'm not hoarse by the end of this video, then we have not done our job. So let's keep on keeping on. Oh, here's one. I told y'all I was gonna try and go in some kind of order, but you know, they don't all live in my mind palace currently. So this is huge. This was a big win for me this year because there are a lot of times in my life, many an occasion where I want to put on so little makeup, but I still want to put on some makeup. You know, my skin's broken out or what have you. Want to put a little something underneath my eyes. Monica Blender comes through with the blender cover. So I wouldn't have ever known that this existed had it not been for Hannah. Ow. Oh. No. I don't know how long that's gonna last. Because she was talking about it and I ended up just going for it, and man, it's awesome because it's not a foundation and it's not a concealer. I would say it's more like a concealer, but it's not like the Glossier stretch concealer or something. Like, it has so much more coverage than that. And it blends directly into my skin, disguises things so beautifully, has a really fantastic finish to it that looks like skin, fills in all of the little, you know, textures in my skin and stuff, and does its job and doesn't complain. And you know, it's just a great product for people who are like, I don't want that many steps. Why does there need to be that many steps? You know, there are people who don't want to put foundation all over their face sometimes, and like, I think that that is a fantastic solution. It's just a dibby dab here, dibby dab there kind of product, especially if you actually do, like, when you do want to cover, you want to cover kind of thing, you know. I think that there is definitely a customer for it, and I am one of them. Is it possible to hold the record for the itchiest nose in the world? Oh my god, it's that time of year. My nose is just gonna be red. I'm like one of those little Kleenex commercials. Shall we talk about bronzers? Because I actually have quite a few. I'm like borderline surprised at how many bronzers I have. So this is one of them. I won't talk about this too long because I just talked about it, but this is the Skin Mimetic Micro Suede Bronzer from Make Beauty. Again, look at this packaging. It's so easy to find in my collection. The powders, less easy to find because I own several of them. So most people probably wouldn't. And the blushes are even more difficult. We'll get to that in a second. But all I had to say, look at just the way they decided to make this the star of your makeup collection. It's just like, it's gonna be blue, you're gonna know it's there, and you're gonna be psyched about it, okay? So, you know, it does not overstate its purpose, but I just absolutely love this decision. And it looks wildly dark. It looks wildly dark, and I will say that is how all of their products seem to be. They look so much more saturated in the pan, and then they go on like a dream. The word is alchemy. I believe that it was Hannah who actually coined that term in reference particularly to their powder products, because even she can wear this, and she is a very pale, almost like silver undertoned olive, and this works on her. So I adore this. It's so beautiful, and I did buy this one myself. I bought the Monica Blender, and then I bought this myself. This was my first Make Beauty purchase, and then shortly thereafter I bought more stuff, and then they put me on their PR list, which I was so grateful for because it has allowed me to try so many more of their products, and I have been so stinking impressed by them. They've just been so incredible for me. So yeah, great bronzer. Another great bronzer is actually by Rare Beauty. Another one that was sent to me, Gross, this has been through it with me. I mean, it got Simonized earlier in the year. He, like, you know, smashed the lid into it, but you know, I can't blame him for all of this. This is the prettiest color on me. That's definitely a plus, right? There are plenty of shades in this, and there are never going to be shades for every single person, every single bronzer shade line, but you know, I like it when they come out with a lot. And this happens to be the shade Power Boost, and it is the triumph of her, you know, silicone cream to powder formulas. Because I say it all the time, but the melting oil, melting blush or whatever, That one was not a triumph. This is a course correction, and it is one of the easiest things to use. It was, after its initial release, sold out for months because they just bought it all up because it came out swinging and everybody was just so psyched about it because it's really, really good. And it's kind of funny because like, it's just this little stick, you know? It's like not that, I don't know, easy to get excited about. Although, I mean, it's heavy, it's nice. This is a metal cap and everything, but you know, it's just as likely to be underwhelming as it is amazing, but like it actually happens to be incredible. I want to see this in other formulas. I would love to see her do a blush in this formula. And look at it. It's, that finish is just beautiful. And it's so even. That's so huge. It doesn't stain, but it doesn't slip. And again, I mean, all this stuff is priced really well. Another one is this gel to powder formula from House Labs. Another great accolade for her in putting this line out was that there are 12 shades in this bronzer. I think that that is fantastic. This is the shade Light Level 1, and it has like the same kind of claim of being kind of suede, but it is a very different kind of formula than the Make Beauty. The Make Beauty is powder. It is a beautiful skin mimetic powder, but it is nonetheless a powder. This is suede-y feeling. And on the skin, like it picks up on a brush, but on the skin, it does warm to the temperature of your skin, and it does kind of give this lovely hybrid blur with like a tiny, tiny bit, not shimmer at all, but like a little bit of like light refraction. I mean, beautiful. And unlike a lot of her stuff that tended to be kind of like bulky, this packaging is so elegant and well executed, but also unique. It's like, you know, it's kind of orange gold. It's like this weird kind of like citrine vibe. It's really easy to find in your collection. And I did buy this one. A powder bronzer that will come as a surprise to no one. I enjoyed this so much and I continue enjoying it. And it sure is a good thing because it's really expensive. This thing is, I don't even know. I think it's like $60 or so, I don't remember. This is one of my first Gucci purchases when I was starting to wade into the waters of high-end luxury beauty. Rosy, beautiful, super unique shade of bronzer. The formula goes on like a velveteen dream. It is powder, but it does have this just like incredible luxury feeling to the actual powder. And the component just wins the day. This might be my favorite component like of anything that I own. It just sings directly to my heart. Like if I could customize the packaging on everything I own, it would all look like this. It's so pretty. I wish I liked more of this line, or like that more of the line appealed to me, just so that I could have more things that look like this, because it is just the dreamiest thing ever. I've been kind of saving this one as it pertains to the bronzers because it's going to bridge between the bronzers and the blushes. And this is the Kaja Butter Up Play Bento. You know, I said there were 3 brands. There might be 4, because like 3 brands that, you know, moved into my orbit this year that just completely blew my mind. I would say Kaja, so many of the things that are in intuitive packaging have stayed top shelf for me in such an unexpected way, because this looks like it's going to be kind of gimmicky. I've experienced a lot of products like this that come in stacks and they're trying to like simplify your routine or whatever. But this actually was oddly like my top bronzer when I did my bronzer countdown earlier this year, because it's just great, okay? It's just like a really great color. It's a really great formula. Look at it. It's so even and saturated, and what an unbelievably beautiful color. I mean, it is a true cream. We're not going hybrid, you know, powder finish here. It's a true cream, but it's not sticky, you know? And when you blend it out, it's got, that's, I think its big advantage is it has so much pigment that you're not like piling it on. A lot of times that matters, you know, because if you're piling it on, you're gonna end up with a texture, you know, a textural change. This is so cooperative. It's so beautiful. And, you know, it comes in a trio, and I like the blush, the highlighter is fine. I just don't use those things that much. I just wish I could break this off of here. Maybe this should have been in my honorable mentions because I wish that it, but I mean, I feel like that would be selling short the mission that is Kaja, which is making these bentos, okay? You either like it or you don't, and I like it. That didn't work at all as bridging the gap because I have another bronzer, and this is the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. I love this. This is like, ew, caked with cat hair. Okay, khaki, what? Is anybody else's like that? Because ew. So this is a cream that has like no, to me, like perceptible, like opacity to it. It's just color. Does that make sense? It's almost like a water bronzer, but it's in a really pale shade. It probably has a little bit of opacity to it, but like a lot less than a lot of cream bronzers, like even the, you know, the Play Bento I was just talking about and stuff. Because what I love about this is like you can put this on bare skin and it will make you really beautifully like sun-kissed looking, and you'll still see your skin through it. It's super effective and it's unique, you know? It actually deserves a place in my routine, and I use the crap out of it because it doesn't add any coverage to my look, which is different from his other stuff, you know? He has the bronzer stick that I, you know, still use the daylights out of, but it's definitely going to look a little more made up. It's got a little bit more of like a cosmetic presence to it, whereas this is just this beautiful, like soft bronze. It's more of just a texture on the skin, but it does have color. It's awesome. I'm wearing it right now because it's like the perfect way, especially if you feel like your foundation is a little bit like it's kind of washing you out. You take a big old honking brush like this one, the 105, star of the show, main character energy from BK Beauty. It fits perfectly into this pan, and then you pound, 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 dibby dab, 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 and it just doesn't get away from you. It's beautiful. It just blends in such a lovely way. And it's one of those things that, you know, I rarely use this word, but it's foolproof, you know? Like I wouldn't buff it onto my face, obviously I wouldn't, you know, start smearing it around, but I feel like, you know, I wouldn't do that with really anything. But like, yeah, I feel like it's so sheer and it's so agreeable. It's just such a good, it has a texture to it, like it's already been warmed to your fingers. So you don't have to like get it started, which is really nice. And that's why I like it. And here's another thing that I think will kind of bridge the gap between blush and bronzer. I want to call this like an intellectual favorite, because while these haven't necessarily gotten the most use in like my videos, I respect the heck out of them, and this particular one, Carve, makes its way into my routine at least 3 days a week. So these are the Hindash color fluids, and he also, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull out Boy Tears, even though it's like more of like an eye product, they're all kind of universal. Either way, I love when makeup makes me think differently about how makeup works and what makeup can do. And that's what these do. There are so many of these kinds of like paint, pigment, you're free to do whatever you want kind of products out there, and they are just not all created equal. And what I really enjoyed about these, well, I'll get to Boy Tears in a second. What I really enjoy about these is how they can go on at any opacity level, and they mix in with everything. They're so agreeable, they're so easy. They made an entire face of makeup come together in like half the time that it normally would. And what's cool is like, I'm usually kind of mixing my foundation on like the lid of my foundation container, just getting like the right shade for my skin that day or whatever. And then I'll have some left over, and then I'll mix Carve into it. And then I've got a really beautiful, also, you know, perfectly dialed in matching contour shade. And it hasn't used very much of the product because you just kind of wipe the little doe foot off. It's not a doe foot, it's like a little, you know what I mean? It's like a little paddle tip. And you mix those together and you've got a really, and it, oh, the way that it just sort of like sinks into the rest of your makeup, and it doesn't do any kind of like aggressive dry down. And the actual finish of it, I mean, it does dry down, but it's not aggressive. It's not really fast. And so it's like super easy to get it to feather and do what you want. I don't know how he did it, because it also works at its, you know, highest concentration, at its full concentration, really well as like an eyeliner. And it doesn't smudge around. It doesn't go anywhere once it dries down. It's really high performing in a world of these kinds of products that just tend to overstate their purpose. They tend to be things like shimmer goos or, you know, pigment paints or whatever, where if you can't make them work, you're probably using them wrong kind of thing. And it's like, I defy you to use this wrong. So yeah, it's an intellectual favorite in the sense that like, I think of it as a landmark in what I do, you know what I mean, in this industry and in like my routine, but it's also just a favorite from the standpoint of like, is it fun and is it easy to use? Yes, and it surprises me every single time how easy to use they are. All right, so touching briefly on Boy Tears, what sets this one apart obviously is that it's shimmery, but I gotta show you all this. What's so cool about Boy Tears is that like you'll use a teeny bit of it, right? And you can get, like you can take your finger and just like touch it onto an eye look and you get the sheerest, almost imperceptible wet look. But if you keep building it, it never gums up and you can get full, like ethereal foil on your eyeball. And then, you know, you could feather the edges of it if you wanted. You can use it as a highlighter if you want to be a little glittery, but it just doesn't have limits. It transforms any look and it's really, really fun. It's really fun because you put this on, especially on top of an eye look, it doesn't disturb anything that's underneath it, but like you can just put the softest wash on top of something and it won't actually like change the color of the eye look, it'll just change the texture. But then you could take a brush or your pinky or whatever, use the exact same product and just build it where you want it and it just looks like a flash. It's very, I feel like they're very underrated. There's not really any like specific time to mention this other than I probably already should have, and that is the Victoria Beckham by Augustinus Bader. This is the, what is this thing called? Cell Rejuvenating Priming Moisturizer. And sure, that's skincare, but this is in the shade Golden, and this is what I've been mixing with my Chanel to turn it the color that I want it to be. It's just the right amount of bronzy golden, you know? And I just do like a squirt, a little mini squirt of it. As far as its like skincare benefits, I don't know. It probably does something. Augustinus Bader, you know, is well known for these things. Why does that smell like the inside of my church? Why is that transporting me? It smells like wood and wine and like remnants of incense. Well, that's just wild. Alrighty, I have no, if y'all know in the ingredient, like in the comments, any of the ingredients that might do that, y'all let me know, but this is what I've been using to mix with my Chanel. This was gifted to me very recently. And we're gonna get into Victoria Beckham, okay? I think we're firmly in blush territory now. So let's start with this one. Yeah, right? Y'all, I'm a multifaceted human being who is capable of being layered and also growing, okay? No, I gave Violette's original release, despite loving Violette, I gave her original release just kind of a really, really bad review. And that was because I felt like the formulas weren't very good, but these are really nice. I like these very much. I'm wearing this today, especially as I have been getting into these really exaggerated eye looks. I know that I'm going to like, people are just gonna hit unsubscribe when I say this, but like, it's made me want to dial back the vividness of my blush a little bit. And it doesn't mean I'm dialing back the amount of blush that I'm wearing, but like, I wanna wear stuff that's a little bit more like nude for my skin tone. And this has been the one. This is Louise from Violette, and this is in her Bisou blush, matte cream blush, and there is a brush on this end, but it's like this perfect kind of desaturated pink, kind of reminds me of Mimi from Westman Atelier, but it's a little pinker than that. It's just like this perfect peachy, rosy, in-between kind of color on my skin that does blend enough into my natural skin tone that it's not going to absolutely steal the show, but it looks like a really healthy flush, especially when I'm wearing blue like this, because I like to bring out the like natural peach in my skin when I'm wearing blue. It just kind of like makes everything pop. It makes my hair look warmer. It makes everything look a little bit healthier. And so this has just been that like perfect dialed in shade that I wouldn't have expected to love, because I would think that if if I wanted to wear a nude for my skin tone, it would need to be almost like carve, you know, like something like this, or maybe even, you know, a little bronzier than that, but like not this far into like peach territory, but it works. It works really, really well. And I've actually gotten into peach blush a lot lately, as you're going to see. Oh, and the other thing I have to mention about this, Violette, if you're watching, please put this out as its own scent. The smell of these is unbelievable. It's so good. It smells like citrus and a little bit of floral, but it's just the most delicious, bright citrus smell. The smell of these is intoxicating, and it's just so unexpected for like a cream blush to even have a scent in it at all, but to have like an absolutely like knock my socks off scent to it that I just want to apply all over my body. I can't say that that didn't like weigh into my decision making a little bit. I don't know if Mimi came out this year, Mimi from Westman Atelier, but I think that the color had existed before and then it got like changed a little bit and then re-released with the new packaging with this gold lid. Divine. For my pale skinned, neutral to nude loving blush people, I should swatch those next to each other, shouldn't I? Mimi is kind of everything. What ends up happening is I can like swatch these and talk about the nuances between them, that's Louise, all day long, and I'm not gonna do that. We will get bogged down, but there are so many of this kind of shade in my collection that I adore that might not be new, and Mimi just happens to be like the newest of my favorites. I also love Latte from Anastasia Beverly Hills, which I tried for the first time this year. It's not new, I don't think, but I tried it for the first time this year. But again, I can just get bogged down to death on that kind of stuff. The point is, Mimi is lovely. It is a site exclusive. I used the crap out of it for a while, but it's not an absolutely undupable thing. I think that if you have Inner Glow from Curewise, it does a really great job at being very, very similar. And if you have Latte from Anastasia Beverly Hills, it's a lot less expensive and it does a really great job. Even if you have, like if you have my skin tone and you have like Flirtatious from Pat McGrath, they do about the same thing. We talked about Make, we talked about Kaja, another brand that I tried for the first time this year that has blown my mind. It's not drugstore because they do have a drugstore line that's called like AF and then a year, whenever Halsey was born, I think. But it's still fairly affordable, and that is About Face Beauty. And they reached out to me earlier this year and asked if I wanted to, you know, get some gifting or whatever, and I was just off to the races. Like, as soon as I touched those products, I was like, oh my God, yes. I get goosebumps thinking about it because there are all these really beautiful subtle products that I love. You know, I love Chanel foundation. I can sit here and just like wax poetic about all the subtleties of it and what makes it so special. But what makes About Face so special is that they go all the way to the other end of the spectrum in terms of like not being subtle at all, but they still nail down the formulas. The formulas are awesome. So I feel like they do this in a very understated way. Like they kind of don't make a big deal out of it because they're not wildly expensive or anything. But I'm gonna talk about the blushes real quick. They sent me all of these and they're all in these like very suggestive names for doing it. And this one's called Get Some. This is the Cheek Freak Blush Balm. And some of them did arrive broken. I think that that was just a problem with the actual PR packaging, not the product itself, because that does happen sometimes. But I have a few things to say about the packaging. One, I love this like sumptuous like dome. It gives like that baked blush kind of vibe, but it's a cream. But it's also like this really, really great hybrid finish cream that goes on, oh my God, it goes on just like powder. It's awesome. It reminds me a lot of the Rare Beauty, but it's like in a pan form. But the other thing that I love about this is that every compact, these are the only two I have in here, but they're all the color, the exact color of what's inside so you know what you're grabbing. Yes, I understand that there are overhead issues that some brands can't afford to do that, but I will say that when they do it, it's great, okay? This is definitely my favorite shade though. I mean, obviously, but yeah, this is like a really beautiful fjordsy shade. Get Some, but they're all really, really pretty. And like one of my long time viewers the other day reached out and she was like, I have a color theory question for you. What am I supposed to do if even the most mauvey, mucky kind of blushes turn like straight up tan on me. And like, why does that happen? I said, you're probably, and looking at her pictures, like very warm toned. She is fair-ish, you know, not quite as fair as me, but fair-ish, and quite golden undertoned. So much so that some of the blushes that I really like using, that, you know, something like this, right, that has a lot of purple in it, it either turns really tan or really pink on her. And so what's happening is that her skin is both canceling out any of the like cooler tones in there, but also because it's blush, you know, kind of mixing together visually, optically, with the like remaining pinks in there, and she's getting peach. And that, you know, yellow peach can be anywhere from, you know, pinky peach to like a tan color, depending on how saturated the actual blush color is. And I said, all right, well, have you ever tried Drama Class from Fenty, or I think it's called Big O from About Face Beauty, and it is pure blue purple, because that need exists for people who are super golden undertoned, or people who just like to wear a really interesting color of blush. It transforms on the skin, and like that's the kind of thing I get excited about. And when you make a blush like that, that's dialed in enough that it really works on skin, it's not just purple for purple's sake. Like, it actually transforms on the skin because the color is done well and the formula is done well. To me, that speaks to passion for what you're doing. And that speaks to Halsey's passion, as far as I'm concerned, for makeup and for what they like to do on their own face, and like the results that they want, and like the holes they saw in the market. And that's what gets me excited about it. I love thinking differently about makeup, and like, are these two things even really the same like customer, the same conversation, the same demographic? I don't know. Something like Hindash and something like About Face, but like I get equally excited about the innovation coming out of these brands, you know? Because it just makes me think differently, and that makes me happy. Okay, the only misgiving I have about these is that they're all red on the top. I don't want to say I don't get it, because I get it, okay? I get it. There's a reason. It's a little frustrating because I don't necessarily know what I'm looking at, but the pans come out. So this is the Make Beauty blush, and they sent me all of them. And the thing that they did about this one is they came out swinging yet again, not just with all the undertones, but also with all the intensities of different colors. Like, there are colors for everybody in this. Things that, again, I'm getting goosebumps. I love when something, it's like I can sink my teeth into it. I don't have to give a bunch of caveats, because I'm like, you get a blush, and you get a blush, and you get a blush, because there's something to be excited about for all of these. I came into this cynical. Ooh, I love getting excited. This makes me happy. Okay, so anyway, this is the shade that has stolen the show for me for obvious reasons. Meh. You know what I mean? This is like me going to a Thai restaurant and ordering pad Thai. It's just kind of like, I need to know if it's good kind of thing. But this is Celestial Rose, and it's like the turns kind of a beautiful rosy tan on me, kind of mucky mauve, because I do have a little bit of that like golden undertone going on, and it's just the kind of color I like to wear. But I like them all. Okay, now there are ones obviously that are too deep for me, and that's the beauty of this release. I would say half of them are too deep for me, because they should be. I just love it. Okay, I'm not gonna say you can't use those, but the intensity is built up to such a degree that melanated skin can wear it without it looking ashy. At least that's what I'm hoping by the way that they swatch on me. So yeah, if I am incorrect, let me know, but they also do have really beautiful cream blush sticks that are kind of like, you know, all over face, cheek, whatever sticks. And they are also not only intensely pigmented, but also they are kind of like a gel. They don't have a lot of opacity to them. They're just sort of this watercolor gel that I think would look phenomenal on anybody. It just happens to be a little bit like, it's not unsophisticated, but it's a little bit simpler of a formula. It doesn't transform super much, English, on the skin, but I do still really like it. We're getting hoarse. This is good. So this stole the show for me this year, mainly because I have such a history with RMS. RMS is, you know, one of the older clean beauty brands and one of the first ones to get picked up by Sephora during Clean at Sephora, and they had a somewhat starring role in Clean Routine 2019, and I just grew very weary of their releases because they were so tiny and they had so many excuses, you know? And then they got a new CEO. Rosemary is still on their social media and stuff like that, hopefully not, you know, replying to DMs. The whole brand got a facelift in terms of the size of the packaging, the formulations, and like I've gotten comments from kind of their OG customers in my comment section being like, those ingredients aren't clean, and I don't like that the brand is deviating from its original mission, and there are going to be haters. There are, but guess what? The performance is there, and these are much better products from that standpoint. They are more for your money. We have replaceable pans. There we go. Replaceable pans. Love to see it. And they're not magnetic though, so they can't go into a magnetic palette. They only go into their own component, but you can always stick a magnet on the back of it. And the colors are outstanding. This is called French Rosé, and it has a shift, but it's really more of just kind of like a soft champagne shift, you know? But Hanky Panky is gorgeous. It's like this burgundy with a slightly blue shift that I told Hope Miss Tom, I was like, I think you would like this. And they were like, I would like that. So I don't know, it just made me happy. I like to be able to, I love matching someone with their ideal product is one of my favorite feelings in the entire world. And then I also have Maiden's Blush, which is like this bronzy rosy color that is just divine. These are very pigmented. Like French Rosé is very, very pigmented, but if what you're looking for is a true pink that is just absolutely like, again, sink your teeth into it, squeeze it for all it's worth, kind of bubblegum pink, like all of their shades just perform beautifully on the skin. The formulas are gorgeous. They have this really nice kind of like hard pressed like firmness to them, but they feel kind of like satin eyeshadows. They're lovely. Ooh, this is a recent love of mine, but I'm wearing it today. Speaking of extreme colors that it just surprise you. So this is such an understated little thing, isn't it? I like the green lid choice though. This is the new Finding Ferdinand blush. I kept my eye off of Finding Ferdinand for a while because they were only doing lipsticks for a long time. They're primarily like a tech company. They're really not making a big enough deal, in my opinion, out of the fact that they have this technology where it's like you can just like pick a color on the color wheel and they will formulate it into a cosmetic product. Like that just does it. You have to go to like the Bite Beauty lip lab or whatever to do that in most cases. And this one's like, just type in a hexadecimal code. Like, what? And it's made in America, in New York City. So regardless, this is their new blush, and this is so much greater than the sum of its parts. This happens to be the shade Frenchie. And look at it. I'm wearing this on my cheeks. It was like, I couldn't figure out what this look needed. I had put on the Bisou blush from Violette, and I just needed a little bit of friction, like a little twist of something. And this is so great, not just because of the colors, but the formula is wild. It's like this, it's almost like it's got primer built into it. And it does go to a satin finish, but not a powder finish. It doesn't ever feel like powder. So like, look at that. The way that it goes on, it's smoothing and it's really even, and it does seem to have kind of that like silicone feeling to it, but it never goes to that like micro grit texture. I cannot figure this stuff out, but it is awesome. And what's cool is I actually use a brush for this, like not a blush brush, but like, I mean, sorry, not a cream blush brush, but I use like this Beauty Pie Pro Color Angled Cheek Brush, and it picks up quite a lot of the product here. And then look at that, look at it. I am in love. I am in love. I got other shades in this as well, but like today was the day that I wanted a little bit of Frenchie. It's just great. I wondered how long I was going to be able to get through this video before I started doing the Michael Scott. I love it. I love it. And that was how far we got. So yeah, these are so much better than they need to be, you know, for these understated little glass jars, you know? But like, they're really excellent. And the colors are amazing, and soon I think you'll be able to actually like get any color you want. So there's that too. But like, look at the finish that put on my cheeks. It's so smooth. We love to see it. Is that it on blushes? Oh, I feel like I'm missing something, but no. I pulled this because I wanted to talk about this entire line. That was the thing. So I don't think these are new necessarily, I'm not sure. But the Bionic line from Milk Makeup blew my mind this year. Talking again about that glycerin finish, this stuff is really awesome. So you know what, I'm gonna do the Bionic Glow. I think it's the only highlighter in here. This one shows the texture the best because it doesn't have a lot of color, but like, the way that this goes on the skin and looks like it's going to be any other cream highlight or any other cream blush or any other cream bronzer. The bronzer is fantastic as well. But then when it gets on the skin, it actually dries with like a slightly dewy look to the finish of it that looks like hydrated skin, but it's not tacky. And for that, it deserves some accolades. Like, that's a pretty incredible distinction, okay? And the bronzer does that, the blush does that, and I just think that they're exquisite products. I think that they deserve better packaging. It wouldn't be this year if I didn't talk about these. So look, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't, okay? Can these be duped? Absolutely. Are they going to solve everything in your entire life? No, but they're great. Okay, I just love that Dior said, you know what? You get 2 blushes, and they're both in these just like bright freaking colors. One is bright pink and one is bright coral, and I did not expect to like the bright coral as much as I do, but I love it. And again, talking about peach, you know, I did buy, I don't know if that was this year, Creamy Peach blush from Make It by Mario, because it's one of my favorite colors to wear. Again, I'm like really into peach blush. And this as like the topper on Creamy Peach, get real. Oh my God, game over. So good. And then this is just, I mean, you can tell how much I love this by how disgusting it is, okay? Obviously I haven't gotten as much use out of this one yet because I just got it pretty recently, but like, I could justify putting this on right now. I could justify that. It wouldn't be a Khaki Reviews beauty video if I didn't put on too much blush. And it just kind of changes, the vibe, you know, changes the energy. Yep, love these. Dior Backstage Rosy Glow in pink and coral. Weird that this one is 001 pink and this one's 004 coral. Where are 2 and 3? I demand answers, okay? Is there a blue? Is there a yellow? Is there a bright red or a black? I want to know. I want to know, Dior. Wow, all we have left is eyes and lips. This is fun. This is fun. I'm actually doing an okay job of like talking about these things. Starting with this one right here. So this is the, look at her. Look at what she's been through for us. This is the Aether Beauty Desert Sunset palette. So Tyla gave me this in person a year ago, August 2021. And I had to keep my trap shut on this for so long. But I mean, a color story has never quite sung to me so specifically. Like, you would look maybe at this eye look and think that I was wearing this palette because it's kind of where I always end up when I get carried away anyway. I love a little bit of sultry and a little bit of weird, a little bit of unhinged, and like, this pink right here gives, that's not what I have on my eyes right now, but like, it gives you unhinged. A little bit of this does some like wacky shifts, but like around the edges here, you have all these gorgeous bronzy golds, which are like what I ended up mixing this eye look to. It's a brown-eyed girl's dream, okay? This is just definitely, you know, exactly what I love working with. So I have absolutely loved this. I think she's doing 40% off site-wide right now for the holidays. So definitely do that if you have been interested. Okay, I'm gonna talk about two palettes that are imperfect from an intellectual standpoint, but I have enjoyed them so much that I cannot not put them in this video. And one of those is Rose Metals. So again, oh my God, yep, I keep dropping it. And so stuff just keeps trying to pop back out. Stop it. Anastasia's palettes are very notorious for being incredibly, like all of her eyeshadow formulas are very soft. And this one came kind of already a little bit broken. And so I have been continually repressing them and honestly not being kind enough to this palette. But oh my word, the amount that I go into this palette. And it's for that same reason of like wanting something mildly, or maybe not so mildly, unhinged looking, a little bit threatening, because you have these like weird reds and oranges in here and like magenta purples that like kind of make your eyes look a little sick. And I love it. I love it, but it also has like, you know, my bedroom eyes colors in here, Nova and Noble. I love Sunrose because it just starts to get that like really nice glow of almost orange on me. Dune kind of does the same thing, but like the ones that I go into the most are probably like Rose Fire. I love Dune. I love, because it's almost, like I said, it's like a clay red on me. And then I like working in these kind of like icky purples over here. It's a really, really intuitive palette for me, which is weird because it doesn't look intuitive at all. But if you watch that video, you remember the way to think about this palette, if it looks intimidating to you, is that it's actually 3 quads. There's a green quad, a purple quad, and a red quad. And they're all scrambled up. And if I could, I would rearrange them into respective quads. But that is how I think about these. And it does help to, you know, make heads and tails of it. So yeah, I mean, not perfect from the standpoint of like, I really don't know how I would have like solved for the formula being as sensitive as it is, but it also works really well for, you know, the way that the formulas perform. So I just have to be really kind to it. The other one that's sort of imperfect by my standards just because of expectation versus reality, but I still adore it, is the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes. And here is my defense on the Ethereal Eyes, especially because these mattes were disappointing to me and a lot of other people because they're not his other matte formula. They're not like the Master Mattes formula. They're not like the Foreplay Everyday formula. They are more ethereal. Someone pointed that out in my comments. They're like, it's an ethereal palette. They go on ethereal. And I was like, I mean, you have a point. You're not wrong. Like, it's kind of true, you know? Because they go on way more softly and they're a little bit more prone to fallout, but they don't have the grip that the Foreplay Everyday palette did that I got so excited about. But especially once they replaced this. I bought one and it had a really squishy shadow right here and they were like, that's not supposed to happen. And so I wrote to them and they replaced the whole palette. Now it's an even more complete idea to me. And like, these are unbelievable. These beautiful, like, you know, if I were to direct anyone towards wet look eyeshadows in a palette, I would direct them here. These are just unbelievable. And the other 2 shades being like these really delicious satins, I think that they're perfect for this because it's like you can steer in 2 different directions. You have your warm bedroomized brown, which is, I mean, honestly, like that's my favorite color in anything. And I can get passionate about, again, the nuances and like the subtleties of a bedroomized brown all day long. Okay, like it's not just that I want one, I want to know them all kind of thing. And this is a really good one because it's got a really like subtle shift to it. It's not like, you know, blue or something. It's like almost just a brown shimmer shift. And the other one is this like, how would you say? It's like a pewter that goes a little bit green by comparison to everything else. Like it's got this little bit of seafoam green to it. And it gives you a different way to lean in the palette, like a different base if you wanted something even more ethereal and not basic. You know what I mean? That's not a very basic color for most people, but I also like how, you know, because his Master Mattes palette was warm. And this having these mattes in here that go, I'm gonna go kind of color theory nerd on you here, because like my mother is like, what are you talking about when I do this? But this is like a warm cream. This is like a cool lavender leaning gray. This is a neutral to warm leaning, you know, light brown. Here we have like a cool cocoa brown. Here we have a warm cocoa brown. Here we have a neutral rosy pink. Here we have a neutral peach, okay? And like the fact that we have almost an equal distribution of cool, warm, and neutral in shades that are so adjacent to one another really like opens up the possibilities of building an illusion, which is something I can nerd out about all day, but it's also like you kind of can't go wrong, you know? You think you're brushing one of those and it's gonna look fine. Because they're really soft and they're really ethereal, and you can always just like smack some glitter on top if you don't love what you did, but none of these is gonna be a Natasha Denona shadow that just like gets you in trouble and over your head really quickly kind of thing. And I just adore it. I reach for it absolutely all the time, and it's one of those palettes that like every formula in it allows me to kind of like check out and really enjoy what I'm doing. So I think that there's a lot to be said for that. Oh, we do have a drugstore one in here, and this is the Eye Service Eyeshadow Quad from Uma by Sharon C. I reviewed these pretty recently, but I will say it again. It's like they took the luxury, gorgeous Uma eyeshadow formula and they just said, put it at the drugstore. You know what I mean? Like there's no compromise, no sacrifice to these formulas. They're delicious. The mattes and the foils are just absolutely ridiculous. Look at this matte right here, okay? I mean, Uma by Sharon C, it is a Black owned brand, and so you would expect that they would be able to work on melanated skin, but like, still, that is some saturation. And I can still wear them, you know what I mean? Like, I can still wear those colors. They have a really, really beautiful kind of blur on the skin. They're just off the charts gorgeous. They're really, really easy to use, really easy to build, truly matte, you know? And then, look at these foils, look at that. Like, you know, you're not getting some kind of like wild, you know, confetti Danessa Myricks multi-chrome here, but the drugstore isn't always for that. I think people are looking for slightly more wearable textures at the drugstore, and they also need to be a little less fragile. And so these are, you know, very like safe for travel and things like that. And I mean, that's just not backing away from a challenge. They're just so gorgeous. I mean, honestly, the shimmers, the foils, I would compare them to like a Pat McGrath holiday palette, you know, where she kind of goes quantity over quality. You don't get any of the special shades. These are like Pat McGrath's non-special shades. Like this thing is just, oh my God. That copper is just wild. The drugstore, you're gonna do a little compromising on packaging, but she did go the Aether route. She's got the elastic. I love that. It does have a window in it, so it's not, you know, easily recyclable just as this, but I could see, you know, you could. You just kind of cut the components apart. And you could also pop these pans out and just, you know, put them in your collection. And I swear you'd get them confused with your luxury eyeshadows that you paid like $30 a piece for. And that little guy is $10. I did say that I could wax poetic all day long about a bedroomized brown. Someday I will put out my own bedroomized brown, but in the meantime, this is the one that rises to the top. This is the one that I absolutely use nonstop. And if I could recommend any of the Kaja Bento Trio eyeshadows, it would be Orange Blossom. This is the first one that I got. I love all of them truly, but this is the one that still shines above all of them, both in the color story and also in just the way that all the formulas are like ridiculously indulgent. Like they just feel like eating dessert, right? Who texted me? Ooh, my mother's starting a newsletter for reviewing cooking stuff. So when it comes out, I'll let y'all know. She's asking me about affiliate links. She's so cute. I love her. Anyway, so yes, this is the Orange Blossom Beauty Bento from Kaja. This is $26 for 3 shadows. And this brown is the most, it's just the most, it's the most perfect. It's the most perfect, easy to use, soft. They call these bouncy. They might be bouncy, but they're not cream. The next one in here is ridiculous. Look at that thing. Sorry for headphones wearers. What in the what? NARS wishes, okay? That is orgasm on steroids. And then I would say that this is the one I use the least probably, but that's just because I'm not necessarily a sweet girl. It is such a sweet pink. But it works really well as like an actual like highlight shade too. I think you could use all three of these on your eyes, no problem, all at once. But I like to use each one to kind of use as a jumping off point for, you know, different eye looks. But that brown is the one that definitely gets the most play from me. Another one, another beautiful bedroom eyes brown. This is, this is the James Malloy quad from Beauty Pie. What? This freaking brown, look at it. I'm gonna swatch the Makeup by Mario one against it because, yeah, do not fall on the floor, you darn you. Because, you know, this is definitely a flavor that I have become kind of a connoisseur of. But like, that middle one, the middle brown is the one from the James Malloy quad, and it's like $17 on Beauty Pie if you have the, you know, the membership. So I always say like, I don't think that it's necessarily worth like buying the membership for one thing kind of thing, because you can do a day pass. But if you're already a member and you find that you're getting use out of like their skincare and everything like that, I highly recommend the James Malloy quads. They are so much more luxurious than the price point. They're wild. The one thing, be warned, like that color is very, very interesting. It is a white that shifts green and there's not much getting away from it. But the other two shades, the other two besides the Bedroom Eyes Brown, are just the most unctuous, velvety, ridiculous mattes. And then that brown is just like next level creamy. So yeah. That's particularly the gold one, I think, because they have a gold, yeah, the gold, rose gold, and silver. The gold one is just like everything. But these, I mean, the whole situation, it reminds me very much of like a Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow for a third of the price. And honestly, like more indulgent formulas. I would liken that one satin to like a Byredo shadow. It's so silky and creamy. Speaking of silky and creamy, I want to speak basically in general on the lid lusters from Victoria Beckham. I know that obviously like these have been around for a while. I've been reviewing Victoria Beckham Beauty since 2019. But she deserves another mention because she came out with so many more shades in her stuff this year. I really feel like she's like chasing down the same vibes that I would if I were her kind of thing. You know, it's like figuring out what works and then just like iterating and iterating and iterating. And this needed to exist. This is the base that I have on my eyes right now. This is Velvet from Victoria Beckham. Oh. Green, green, green. And what's so funny is I see it on other people, even on their finger, it doesn't look green because there are people who just have different undertones than I do. And so, you know, it is kind of the contrast of like, you know, the pink of my fingers and stuff like that that's going to make it look more green. It might look more gold on other people, but it is just the ideal wearable green for me. I love it so much. And I know that the formula hasn't changed, but I like that she seems to have improved on the shifts. There used to be much wilder shifts in her lid luster formulas, blonde, mink. Like, I don't hate them, but I feel like these are dialed in more because they just have a really gorgeous shimmer. They have a ton of different textures in them. It's like a base color, you know, a foily, creamy satin, and then also like a micro glitter. So you're getting like 3 eyeshadows in one almost. But they don't do any kind of like wild prohibitive shifts that are gonna make them like hard to wear that some of the older ones did. So like Starlight, Tea Rose, Honey, Velvet, they're all going to have more like predictable of actual payoff on the eyes. And I feel like she deserves a mention for that because I've fallen in love with these. They're like what I think of when I think of what I want to put on my eyes. There's like a handful of things, and well, I mean, that's what I'm talking about here, but it's among them, right? Another one that like, y'all, this is not getting enough attention because YSL is too inconsistent with this formula. I feel like they just like forgot to flesh out this line for some reason. And that is their Sequin Crush Mono eyeshadows, because I did end up buying, I'm gonna just show it to you. I did end up buying Explosive Brown because Hannah was talking about it and she was like, this isn't really what I thought it was gonna be. And I was like, I understand that it's not gonna be what I think it's gonna be, but I still wanna know. the difference in the appearance of these. So this is called Confident Nude and this is Explosive Brown. Look at the difference in the textures, and they're, I mean, granted, oddly, they have different packages, but they're both called Sequin Crush Mono Eyeshadows, Glitter Shot Eyeshadows. This one is definitely a glitter shot, and this one is a glitter knot. So yeah, I mean, I have to agree on Explosive Brown, but this I cannot stop using. Every time I get done with an eye look, I'm like, I like it. But it could really use a little bit of that YSL shadow because it is really indulgent. It hits every point for me as far as like Magpie is concerned, because I don't really want something to look really natural all the time, especially on my eyes. Like I said, I'm kind of into this weird, sick, pinky red on my eyes right now. And like, that's what this is. This is a weird, kind of haunting, sick, pinky red with this glitter that makes it look very intentional. So like, when you see this underneath my eyes, that's what that is. And it has really, really obvious glitter in it. This is not shying away from the idea that there are going to be glitter particles on your face, okay? Like we have a color, we have some shimmer, and then we have glitter, and I adore it. In fact, it kind of goes with that other shade that I was simping on a second ago from Kaja, because they're both in that kind of like peach plus category. So it's this one, that delicious color right there. And that one's got more of a gold shift to it, but it's like I could easily see combining those on my eyes and, you know, ending up with something that just looks a little bit odd, a little bit unhinged in all the right ways. So that plus a copper eyeliner, especially in the waterline, that's been my thing lately. I love it. Speaking of copper eyeliners, this is, again, we're gonna talk about Victoria Beckham briefly because she came out with not just a bunch of shades in her satin kajal, but she also came out with these shimmery eyeliners, the jewel eyeliners, and they sent me those in PR. And so I have that, like, I have sequin green right here because I really like it. It is the perfect kind of like black base, green shift gold for, you know, an actual effective lash thickening looking eyeliner for me. And then this copper color, this is not one of the jewel ones. This is just a regular shimmery one. It's almost pink compared to, which I do like the Persona ones, but they started drying out and that's why they're not in here. The Persona one has a little bit more of like depth to it, and there's just something decidedly a little bit sicker and more unhinged about that one. So that's the one that I've been going for. Plus it's really long wearing in the waterline. I like them a lot. Ew, oh. No, that's going off. It smells. Ooh, it smells like a marker. That's weird. The Persona ones, yeah, I'm sorry. They're not making the cut. Now, one that did make the cut, and we are finally rounding out the third, quote unquote, the quote unquote third, even though I named a bunch of other ones, brand that really made an impression on me this year that I actually just got more stuff from in PR, and I'm like really excited to try it, but it's just not, we're not there yet. We're not at trying new makeup right now, is LH Cosmetics. So Linda Hallberg is just lovely, and her like crayons are incredible. I will actually put this next to Sequin Green just for, like, this is Vega Flash. So it's not as shimmery, and it actually makes a much more like effective actual green eyeliner, but I do like the shimmer of the Victoria Beckham. The Victoria Beckham one, like, I could really go in on all the ones that I like. She put out a smoky quartz one that's absolutely gorgeous. I love Night Flash. I can get some use out of Fig. I of course love Cocoa, that's not new, but like they're all ridiculous. But LH Cosmetics is doing some things differently, and I feel like we're kind of getting in on the ground floor of LH Cosmetics because we're still in this packaging that feels very like 1.0. You know, I feel like if she had her druthers, we'd be doing this a little bit differently. But I did have the privilege of trying so much stuff from LH Cosmetics this year, and the first one that like really comes to mind when I think of a huge standout win from LH Cosmetics is this Shimmer Saga. This is, you know, 4 multi-chromes that will just absolutely break your heart. They're so beautiful, and they're like really ethereal and kind of like, almost like if you could have a pastel multi-chrome, and I just get excited to use them every time I see them. I can make an excuse to add them to just about anything, and I feel like LH Cosmetics is easy to kind of overlook because their packaging doesn't really make a big deal about itself, but the main thing that I think that they are is like incredible at color. Like Linda Hallberg gets, and maybe it's just specific to me because I feel like all of her shades look good on me. So I think it might be that we're complected similarly, you know? And so all of her shades are like the shades she always wished existed out there, but she makes a big deal out of the things that I make a big deal out of. You know, I love texture on my eyes and stuff like that. And then her lip colors will just be these really, really like soft, desaturated, gorgeous textures. And all of her crayons are multi-use. And so you can use them as like eyeshadows and eyeliners and lip liners and what have you. And like, they have just found, they're the thing that I reach for like an art supply. And I love them. I just think that they're fantastic, but I would love to see, for everything that this brand is, I would love to see them like really design the hell out of some packaging soon. Because I feel like they sort of fade into the background and almost look like drugstore when the formulas themselves could not be more luxury. Especially when there are so many brands out there that do the opposite, where they're just like, you know, packaging, appearance, and then the formula is just kind of like, would it be my best of the year if I didn't talk about the Lisa Eldridge 6 pans? So this being Lisa Eldridge's first powder eyeshadow release, I did a deep dive. I did a 4 video, at least, deep dive on this entire collection, culminating with my own ideal 6 pan, which ended up very surprisingly being the Cinnabar palette with 1 shade swapped out for this shade from the Vega palette. But regardless, I get now why she didn't do a, you know, fully customizable eyeshadow palette thing, because there just aren't enough colors in it yet for it to be like a full customizable system. And that just wasn't her vision yet. I really like the actual, like, you know, curated capsules that she did so far. And I cannot say enough about this formula. This, for all of my hybrid texture, gel to powder, you know, delicious, yummy cream, no fallout, this formula does it. It just nailed it. So all of these have this really cool, like just super, super smooth to the touch. The way that they pick up on your finger, the way that they pick up on a brush, they don't stray. They just go exactly where you want them to. They blend effortlessly, but they don't have, like, honestly, really any fallout unless you get into the very textured shades or you try and pick up like a crunchy bunchy amount. But they are so beginner friendly for being such a sophisticated formula. And everything about them is just a very complete thought. And I bought 2 of them and then I was sent 3 more of them. So that's how I was able to review all of them on my channel. I thank Lisa for that. And I am really glad that I did. Like I said, I arrived basically at one that I wouldn't have bought. Like, knowing what I know now, I'm just really surprised about that. So it was just a very good protracted exercise on my channel. So either way, absolutely love these. That should be no surprise to anyone. I don't have any tubing mascaras to talk about because they've all been fine, but none of them has unseated my Thrive mascara in terms of tubing mascaras. But there has been one mascara that is not a tubing mascara that has risen to the top, and that is this. All the hype is real about the Tower 28 mascara. My mom can't wear the Thrive because she has very like watery eyes and it just kind of like, you know, works itself off of her lashes over the day. And so she wanted something that was good for sensitive eyes, but also, you know, performs and actually like stays on all day and looks nice and stuff. And she tried this and she absolutely loved it. I tried this, I absolutely loved it. This is one of the most innovative formulas. And when I say clean, I always say it when a brand self-identifies that way, but the effort that went into this formula to try and make it as hypoallergenic as possible deserves accolades. Because usually when a brand starts from the place of, we're going to make it completely allergen free for people who have very, very sensitive eyes, because it is the cosmetic that goes the closest to your eyeball, a lot of times the performance isn't there. It's a lot of feel good and then it will smudge or it won't build very much. It just won't be a high performance cosmetic, but this is. This is a high performance cosmetic. This builds as the day is long. You can get gorgeous, amazing, limitless length out of it as long as you're patient enough to keep building it, and it actually wears. So I have adored this. I hope they come out with a brown. That would be fantastic, but I don't know how they did it, but this is just a non-tubing formula that hits all the marks for me is the Tower 28 Make Waves Mascara. Matte Fluid Eye Paint from About Face Beauty. this is the other one that I was talking about where it's like, you know, there are so many brands out there that want to put out something that's like a multi-use pigment or what have you, and they're just like, use it wherever. But then it's not really sophisticated enough to like work ideally in any part of your face, you know? These are incredible, and it speaks again to Halsey's passion for putting on makeup and probably for using makeup that underperformed and wanting to make something that was better. These are off the charts, okay? They're amazing. Do you know the like NYX really hyper colored like eye paints they're in a tub, and then they have like the eyeliners as well. It's like that, except they actually last. Those things don't last. Oh my god, they dry up so fast. It sucks. Like those are what I used to use for all of my like creative makeup looks when I would do things that were a little bit more like cartoony and, you know, whatever. But these really last. They wear really well. They don't crack on your skin. They actually like feather at the edges. You can use them as like a base that, you know, is like a sheer wash, or you can just, you know, paint directly on your skin with them. They are dialed into perfection. About Face, they did lower the price in the middle of the year this year and made it more accessible to people. And I know that a lot of people had their feelings on that. Sam Ravindell did a video about it, and basically the expectation should not be that every brand should be able to do that, but I do think that it is cool that Halsey was able to do that because accessibility is great. And like I said, I haven't tried it, but there is also an About Face like drugstore brand. Now, I loved all of the LH Cosmetics lipsticks. I loved the Make Beauty like hyper-saturated like lip cream and everything like that. Like, I'm beating the drum so hard on those brands. Understand that like those lines really impressed me, and I'm going to talk about a couple of different things here. So one of them being, and I'm gonna put it on the screen because it's in my purse and it's disgusting, and it gets the accolade of being the most used product in my entire collection for the entire year, and that is, drumroll please, Victoria Beckham Posh Gloss in Bikini. I use it every single day. It lives in my purse. It has been dropped and the packaging is glass, and so it's got like little chunks taken off of it in places. It is very well loved, and when it is done, I will buy it again. I love it so much. I love it so much. It's the best color. And I will say Poolside is a deeper version of it if you have darker lips, so that you can get that nice, still super neutral kind of milky look. If you're pale though, and you like to kind of like block your lips out a little bit and get that just like, you know, sexy nude pout on pale skin, it's so good. I also want to say that Salt New York did impress me this year, but she's kind of going through a, not rebrand, but a reconfiguration of all of her core shades, and I have a review coming up of those. Other than that, I'm really excited to kind of see what's next. I do have the whole bunch of the new ones here, but like haven't had a chance to use them yet. So it's kind of a weird time to like catch me in between those two iterations of the brand. It's not that I don't love the brand, it's that I don't really have anything relevant to review right now because a lot of it went away. My favorite brow pencil of this year is actually really surprising, and that is actually the Make Beauty Blade line. And the reason that it's surprising is because this is so dark, and because it's not a shade I would typically wear. I mean, a shape I would typically use. I'm running out of words. But like, it has ended up being my absolute favorite because I have a lot of brow, and I love this because it's really fast and the color is really good, and Make Beauty is honestly, brand of the year for me. Make Beauty, brand of the year. I don't know if there's necessarily a release of the year, other than the fact that like their Skin Mimetic bronzer was the thing that like brought them to my consciousness, because I know basically Make existed a while ago. I was aware of them at the end of like 2018, but they changed owners, and this whole rebirth of the brand has been awesome. So I said I wasn't going to pull them out. I'm pulling them out because I want to like make my point really clear here. There are so many brands that are really good on a lot of things, but I have rarely, if ever, seen a brand able to satisfy so many of my wants and needs, from a packaging standpoint, from a color theory standpoint, from an inclusivity standpoint, from a formulation standpoint, from a price point standpoint even. relatively speaking to like, you know, what I would typically spend as Make Beauty has in this year. So this is the first thing that I tried. This is the Lilac Layer. This is the Serum Balm Intense. I mean, you look at this versus, you know, it's very easy to compare that to the packaging of like a Westman Atelier A Squeaky Clean Liquid Lip Balm, but look how much bigger it is. I mean, it even has the same font on it. But this is their cheek stick I was talking about. Do you see what I mean? It's like this really pretty, like watercolor wash. Everything about it is done differently for a reason. And I know that a lot of brands kind of run out of runway when they're constantly trying to iterate and do that and just, you know, make things that are like hero products like Glossier did for a long time, and they just kind of ran out of innovation. But I feel like Make Beauty is not trying that hard to be different for the sake of being different. It's what rings in my head philosophically is Hannah Louise Poston's video, where she was talking about the key to gift giving. And it was basically to not try and solve a brand new need that someone has that's never been satisfied before, but to take something that they use a lot and get them the most exquisite version of that thing that's going to be their favorite thing to interact with, because it truly like feels like this part of their routine that they already enjoyed, but now it's like the most saturated with joy it can be. That's what I feel like Make Beauty is doing with their releases. They're saying like, I know what people want. They want to interact with their packaging and they want to feel like this. They want to interact with their skincare and they want it to feel like this. They want the formulas to behave like this. And like, they're taking these really, really interesting, unique twists on everything that aren't jumping the shark. They're not even trying to jump the shark. They're saying, this is what I like and I'm going to do the most exquisite version of it. And that is why Make Beauty, especially if I'm like recommending it to people, which is literally the bottom line of my job. It's like if I were to send a stranger that was just like interested in how I felt about makeup, like, you know, one brand, I would say, with very few exceptions, you almost can't go wrong with Make Beauty. I personally feel like 2022 has been an incredibly exciting year for beauty, just on the whole, because there is a sense of exhaustion, and what that's doing is it's separating the wheat from the chaff. It's very Aries, like the energy of it is very Aries in the sense of it's like the Tower card, like burn it down and we'll see who survives. As a spectator of it, I think that that's really fascinating. Not to say that like that's always the best way to separate the wheat from the chaff, because I think that, you know, some brands fall that don't deserve to, kind of thing. But even on a product by product like basis, there are just like the average makeup user and consumer is more discerning than they used to be, because we have everything we need. And that means that you got to be different with purpose, and you have to really listen. You have to be plugged in and you have to work for it. And I like brands specifically, like working for my attention. It really felt like the other way around for a long time. And I'm liking them competing for our dollar right now. It's a good feeling, you know, to have them kind of, you know, be scrambling a little bit. Not the small brands, I don't want them to scramble, but the big guys, I want the big guys to scramble a little bit. Get a little satisfaction out of that. Anyway, that completes today's installment of my villain arc. And I hope y'all enjoyed this. The next video, I invite you to comment down below anything that you think I left out, or anything that you bought by my recommendation this year that you're like, well, you know, what about this? Or like, I invite those comments because there's a really good chance I forgot something. And we will be doing my honorable mentions and probably a couple of corrections in the next video. So thank y'all for watching. I will put my last video up here for y'all. Even if you've already watched it, it's still a lot of fun. I hope y'all did enjoy this. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. I love you so much. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!